You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So our orders get all backed up. We're drowning in paperwork, then actually drowning. Carol is fighting off sharks with a stapler, and pirates are pillaging the office copier, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant goes beyond the resume, using unique insights to deliver a smarter shortlist. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Caveat, N2K Cyberwire's privacy, surveillance, law, and policy podcast. I'm Dave Bittner, and joining me is my co-host, Ben Yellen, from the University of Maryland Center for Cyber Health and Hazard Strategies. Hey there, Ben.
Hello, Dave.
On today's show, Ben and I review some of the new privacy legislation taking effect across the U.S. While this show covers legal topics and Ben is a lawyer, the views expressed do not constitute legal advice. For official legal advice on any of the topics we cover, please contact your attorney. Ever wished you could rebuild your network from scratch to make it more secure, scalable, and simple? Meet Meter, the company reimagining enterprise networking from the ground up. Meter builds full-stack, zero-trust networks, including hardware, firmware, and software, all designed to work seamlessly together. The result? Fast, reliable, and secure connectivity without the constant patching, vendor juggling, or hidden costs. From wired and wireless to routing, switching, firewalls, DNS security, and VPN, every layer is integrated and continuously protected in one unified platform. And since it's delivered as one predictable monthly service, you skip the heavy capital costs and endless upgrade cycles. Meter even buys back your old infrastructure to make switching effortless. Transform complexity into simplicity and give your team time to focus on what really matters, helping your business and customers thrive. Learn more and book your demo at meter.com/cyberwire. That's METER.com/cyberwire. All right, Ben, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. It is good to be back.
It is good to be back. I hope you had a lovely and rejuvenative break.
I did, and I hope our listeners enjoyed some encore broadcasts of our wonderful podcast. So
reruns.
But we're back to new content.
That's right.
We're for real in 2026.
That's right. Well, we've got a lot to talk about. Today we are going to go over a lot. There's a lot of legislation that's going into effect here as we roll over the new year. We're keying off of an article that was written for Bloomberg Law. This is actually written by Paula Heckrich, who is from FEMA. Wrote this article. Yeah, kind of a rundown of some of the legislation. But let's start off with the big one here, I think, which I think it's fair to say is California.
You said it, not me. I know I have my California biases, but yes,
true.
This is a California story. So
okay. Go for it.
Going back a few years, California passes the CCPA. It's the first major state-level data privacy act in the country. They have this opt-out provision where California residents have the right to petition individual companies to prevent their data from being sold to data brokers.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is there are a lot of companies out there. And the process was very cumbersome. You have to fill out forms for every single entity for which you want data taken down. So with that in mind, the California State Legislature passed a revision to this law, which opened up a one-stop shop for you to request from all websites that your personal data be taken down. This government website is now open. If you are a California resident, you can go to privacy.ca.gov/drop. It gives you more control over your data. You have the right to tell data brokers to delete and not sell your personal information. The one caveat, so to speak, is that companies don't have to comply with the request until September. So you have a few months until you'll be able to see definitively whether your information has been taken down. The other caveat, of course, is that this only applies to California residents, and they have an ID check system, just kind of like a digital certification that they are actually California residents. So unfortunately, me and you can't participate in this effort, but my parents can. I got a lot of of relatives in California who can take advantage of this opportunity. And this is really a major blow to the data broker industry, potentially.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's just one state, and this is just the beginning of the process. We don't know how many people are going to go to this portal, fill out the form, show their ID, and get their personal information taken down.
Yeah.
But this is such a profitable industry. You have data brokers that sell people's addresses, social security numbers, relatives, medical ailments, all the things that the internet tracks because we're not reading the EULAs and we give them consent to track us as we go from site to site.
Right.
When you go to a new site and it's like, would you like to log in using your Google account?
Yeah.
That that's code speak for we have 17 years of emails stored from you, and we know exactly the things you like, your political views, and the very secretive places that you like to go. And there just haven't been many restrictions on how and when that data can be sold. So that's why California in 2023 passed the amendment to this law. You have that single website. Any data broker that operates in the state, no matter their size, is required to delete personal information upon request. And once we get to September, the state can start levying daily fines against the companies if they refuse a person's request to have their information taken down.
Yeah. That was going to be my question, because I guess the cynical side of me, which seems to be growing larger every day, says...
for sure. Same here.
Yeah. We had the do not call list, right?
Yeah. It hasn't done a great job.
I mean, I guess there was a blip when it first happened where we all thought, oh, this is great. We're getting fewer, spam calls or whatever. But then the avalanche continued, and if nothing more, grew. I think things are better now than they were at its peak. But I guess my question is, do you feel as though California has put enough teeth into this law that it'll actually make a dent for their citizens?
Yes, because these fines are real. But I'm will not count my chickens before they hatch.
Yeah,
because there's going to be issues with compliance and what happens if there is some question as to whether a piece of data is actually public information, in which case the company would not have to take it down, and are we going to see lawsuits on things like that? So there is personal information out there that is in the public domain and would not qualify as information that needs to be taken down under this statute. So somebody's voter registration information is public data. That's how they can have robust political opinion polling, because they have information on where you're registered to vote, and that gives the basics on your age, your zip code, et cetera. So we can have issues where data brokers refuse to take down things that they believe are public information, and then there's an investigation. You have this California Privacy Protection Agency, which is the watchdog that's theoretically going to be enforcing this. But beyond that, especially since these fines that are going to be levied are pretty significant, I'm pretty optimistic that they'll be able to enforce this. Until, companies start to figure out workarounds. That's really what happened with the do not call list. Is you're right, we had the 2 or 3 years when it was blissful. When I got a phone call, I could be confident that it was somebody I actually wanted to talk to, and
That's
not,
right.
Have you considered refinancing your house?
Right. Your car warranty is about to expire.
Yes. Oh, man. Get a lot of those. So, yeah, I think at least in the near term, I'm optimistic that it's going to be enforced until, like I said, the companies are creative about finding workarounds to not comply.
Let me tie this into something personal. Over the holidays, I was driving around running some errands, as you do. And I noticed I actually visited more than one Home Depot.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, I'd be Mr. Handyman.
Blue-blooded American visiting more than one Home Depot.
That's right. And what I noticed was that the entrances and exits to both of the Home Depots that I visited had the Flock license plate reader cameras. This caught my eye. And so I did a little digging, and I found out that many, 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 many Home Depots have Flock license plate camera readers at their entrances and exits. So I suspect this means some kind of deal was struck between Flock and Home Depot. I don't know if there's any money exchanging hands or if it's just a courtesy. But what struck me about this was I would love to be able to opt out of this, right? And I currently cannot. So what this leads me to is my question for you. I know, you have an ear to legislation here in Maryland. Are there any conversations about these sorts of things? Are our legislators looking at what's going on in California? Are these types of things on their radar?
Absolutely. They look at California as the model. They have since the CCPA was enacted. Since then, Maryland, the state I'm most familiar with, passed its own data privacy protection law, and they're always looking to improve it. We have some very impressive national advocacy organizations in this space and state-based advocacy organizations who care deeply about data privacy and realize that the fight right now is taking place at the state level. And we've seen, as I think you'll get to when we get to this Bloomberg Law article, like hundreds, if not thousands of laws on various aspects of data privacy. I think it started with these sort of general data privacy laws that were modeled after California, and that happened in a good bunch of states. And then as new problems arose, I think states are taking more sector-specific approaches and trying to identify problems for consumers before they become bigger problems and give people the ability to protect themselves. So I do think this is something that state legislatures are focused on. I think you're hitting at something very important, that opting out, while it might be very satisfying, might deprive you of certain services and certain benefits that you might end up regretting. I mean, the fact that we are being tracked does add a level of convenience in the sense that I'm getting advertisements that are tailored to me and my interests. And occasionally those end up being products that I didn't know I wanted. And got a really nice milk frother for Secret Santa and Christmas this year that I saw on a Facebook ad, and that's a life changer, and I never would have thought I needed it.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
Yeah. Are you, for example, in that Home Depot scenario, really going to, you're right there, you're about to shop and get your custom nails or whatever. Are you really going to leave because they're tracking your license plate and you're going to go to Ace Hardware or Lowe's? That's kind of where I see, like, everybody's going to try and opt out, and then maybe they notice that some incidental benefits that they took for granted are not there anymore. And I think that's where this could end up being less dramatic than it now seems in terms of impact.
What do you think is the most effective way as a consumer, as a resident of any state, to engage with my lawmakers in a way that is beneficial to both them and me?
Great question. First of all, align yourselves and become, I wouldn't say activists, but definitely align yourselves with organizations that are doing work in the space, like EPIC, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They have a lot of resources. The International Association of Privacy Professionals. They have a lot of resources, so you can A, become very knowledgeable on which states have passed which data privacy laws, and B, they have advocacy tools so that you're more informed when you're talking to your state legislators. State legislators are far more accessible and They actually listen to constituents more, in my experience, than members of Congress. I mean, part of it is just that they represent a smaller population of people. But another part of it is, at least, in my experience in Maryland, anybody can testify if you sign up in advance on any piece of legislation. And so if this is something that you're passionate about and there is a data privacy bill coming up in your state, even if you can't go and testify in person, submit written testimony. If there's kind of a critical mass of people who are submitting this testimony, I think it does have a big impact on our legislators to see that there's some real movement behind this push for data privacy. So I do think people can have a big impact.
Mm.
In the meantime, I mean, those of us who live in the remaining 49 states
Right.
are not going to have the same protection as Californians. We don't have access to this portal. So this Washington Post article gives some good suggestions about what you can do in the meantime, before your state passes a law, using web browsers from Brave, Firefox, or DuckDuckGo. All of those are more privacy conscious. You have the option to tell websites you visit not to share or sell information. The old Privacy Badger, which you can download from the EFF's consumer advocacy group. It is compatible with almost all of your favorite web browsers. Permission Slip from Consumer Reports. So if you give that application your basic information, it will assist you. It's kind of a personal bot assistant to tell companies not to sell your information or to delete it. And then you can ask people search websites to delete your information as well. And their last recommendation is the one that you started with. Become somebody who's willing to talk to legislators and willing to get yourself in the arena and show policymakers that this is something that their constituents actually care about.
Yeah. So before we move on to our next state, there are a couple of things that caught my eye here in this article from Bloomberg. One was about opt-out request noticing, which is kind of what I was talking about with Home Depot, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. A different version of that, but yep.
Yeah, and they actually have some teeth in here. The other was about health insurance portability and accountability. What's going on with that one?
Our favorite acronym HIPAA, which everybody, of course, gets wrong. It's one P and two A's.
Right.
So we'll start with that as a backdrop. No, I mean, this is something that's been done under the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act, which goes all the way back to 2009. And this law in California allows state enforcers to mitigate HIPAA violations of California residents. So it gives California residents an avenue where you have state enforcers through the Attorney General's office trying to maximize privacy claims involving health data. I think this has become critically important as people feel that their personal health data is threatened at the federal level for things like reproductive health and gender identity stuff. And I think that's one of the motivating factors behind this law. So that certainly caught my eye, and it's something that I know has been a focus in California and some other states.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break here, and we will be right back after this message. Most environments trust far more than they should, and attackers know it. ThreatLocker solves that by enforcing default deny at the point of execution. With ThreatLocker Allow listing, you stop unknown executables cold. With ring fencing, you control how trusted applications behave. And with ThreatLocker DAC, Defense Against Configurations, you get real assurance that your environment is free of misconfigurations and clear visibility into whether you meet compliance standards. ThreatLocker is the simplest way to enforce zero-trust principles without the operational pain. It's powerful protection that gives CISOs real visibility, real control, and real peace of mind. ThreatLocker makes zero-trust attainable, even for small security teams. See why thousands of organizations choose ThreatLocker to minimize alert fatigue, stop ransomware at the source, and regain control over their environments. Schedule your demo at threatlocker.com/N2K today. And we are back. One of the things that I think is interesting about this article here in Bloomberg is we start off with California, and I think when it comes to privacy legislation and those sorts of things, most people would probably nod their head and go, oh, yeah, California, that makes sense.
Right.
Number 2 on the list, Texas.
Yeehaw!
Couldn't be more polar opposites from California when you think of attitudes, approaches, legislative priorities. And yet, Texas is also very vigilant when it comes to privacy.
Data privacy knows no political boundaries. And this is something that's been encouraging for me to see. They might focus on different aspects of protecting data privacy.
Yeah.
Texas had that age verification law for adult websites that went up to the Supreme Court because of First Amendment issues. And so that's an area where they'll maybe focus on and California won't. But there's actually a lot of common ground. I think this is something that is relatively nonpartisan in that members of both parties have their own unique interests in trying to protect people's data privacy. So we see that in red states and we see that in blue states.
What are some of the things that Texas is focusing on this year?
So there's something called the Texas Responsible Artificial Intelligence Governance Act and the Texas Data Privacy and Security Act. This does a bunch of things as it relates to children's data. So the Texas Attorney General now has authority under this Office of Data Privacy, and they enforce a couple of new Texas statutes. One of them is the Texas Responsible Artificial Intelligence Governance Act, and the other is the Texas Data Privacy and Security Act. And they are doing a bunch of things in a bunch of different areas. So they've taken action on children's data and applications. I mentioned that age verification effort that could be invalidated as unconstitutional. Securing children online through Parental Empowerment Act was the name of that statute. There's another statute in place that regulates children's exposure to pornography, which has survived judicial scrutiny. And there's also, of course, COPPA at the federal level, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which involves some degree of state-level enforcement. They mention vendor agreements. So the state is reviewing agreements with vendors for provisions that imply permission for the vendor to co-opt data for its own purposes. One thing this article noted is vendor agreements with state government tend to not have in-depth review. It's just something that can kind of be overlooked. So the Texas Attorney General's office under this data privacy team is going to see if vendors are taking advantage of either state agencies or private sector companies, if there are impermissible expansions of data usage beyond an agreement's boilerplate terms. Genetic data. This is one that's always interested me. So this is under a law Texas passed called the Texas Direct-to-Consumer Genetic Testing Act. There's also the Texas Genomic Act of 2025, which gives people a private right of action to challenge the collection of their genetic data through things like biometrics. And then the same thing for geolocation data. So this Texas Direct-to-Consumer this Texas Privacy Act requires explicit consent for processing location data. And this is something that the Attorney General's office in Texas has prioritized for enforcement. And it's something that, at least in this article, Bloomberg Law claims could be a model across the country. So that's a lot of things that this privacy office is working on under the authority of these statutes. And it's certainly very interesting to see it come out of the state of Texas.
Yeah, that is interesting. And like you said, I don't know, it's just fascinating to me that the two states that seem to be leading the charge here are in so many ways different. But when it comes to this, there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah, and again, sometimes they're motivated by different things.
Right.
There are certain things that bother conservatives and certain things that bother liberals. And sometimes there can be common ground on how to ameliorate those things, if it makes sense. And that's where data privacy laws can be bipartisan. If you're concerned about too much information, if you're a libertarian concerned about government agencies or local police departments buying data from data brokers, or you're concerned about monopolized companies in the private sector taking advantage of your personal data. The common solution is a data privacy law, no matter what your ideological bent is.
Moving on here, last but not least in this rundown, they talk about Virginia, our neighbor to the south. So they've got the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act, and it says they're focusing on data and social media this year. What can we expect here, Ben?
Yeah, so they've done a couple of things under the authority of this act. The first has to do with children's data. So this law includes a provision prohibiting the processing of children's geolocation data and a requirement for data protection assessments for online services targeting children. And the idea is that if they are rigorous with enforcement here, this can end up being model legislation, especially as there's more interest at the federal level in protecting children's data privacy. There's a provision of the law in Virginia that just went into effect that requires good faith age screening methods, plus limitations on screen time of 1 hour a day, unless a verifiable parent increases the allotment.
Wow.
And just admit those of us who are parents who try to enforce screen time limits.
Yeah.
And we get the little request that says your child is requesting another hour of screen time. And, I've been working all day and just want to watch football. I can't say I'm above just pressing the approve button.
Right. Because of the alternative is they come and pester you.
Exactly. We've all been there.
Right. Parenting 101 by Ben Yellen.
Exactly.
Parenting through neglect.
So, I think it's kind of questionable to me how this could be enforced.
Yeah.
Especially if there are workarounds where technologically savvy kids can figure out what the 4-digit passcode is to disable screen time limitations. But I think it's a good faith effort to protect children and to get them off of social media. I mean, I think we've seen a pushback against the saturation of social media, the saturation of screens for children. All of these states have passed laws restricting the use of devices during public school hours, which I think is gaining momentum across the country. So I think that's part of this effort.
Yeah.
And then there is a bill amending the Virginia Consumer Protection Act to heighten protection of reproductive and sexual health information. That took effect last April. And this is a priority for the incoming Virginia Attorney General and the new gubernatorial administration in Virginia.
Oh, right. Okay. Sure.
So this is just another example. We've kind of gone blue state, red state. This is it's still more of a blue state than a red state, but it's certainly not as progressive as California. And
yeah,
they're all kind of using the same methods here to reach the ultimate result, which is increased enforcement protecting privacy for everyone and particularly for children.
Yeah, I guess it's funny. I really hadn't thought much about where Virginia sits on the, blue, red, purple spectrum. But I guess like a lot of states, they have a population, their cities are highly populated, and that leans them towards blue. But then there's so much rural area that tends to go more red. And I think a lot of those states, particularly on the East Coast, are kind of like that. Think about right. New York and Pennsülvania, even Maryland. You get away from Baltimore towards either Eastern Shore or the Western Panhandle, and you're very, very red, but not enough to make it so that it's not a very blue state, right?
Yeah, and I think some people in those rural locations can feel underrepresented. Their voice is swamped by people in Arlington and other areas of Northern Virginia. And so I think it's incumbent upon state legislators to try and represent the views of most of their constituents. And I think this is an issue where it's not just something of interest to people living in Northern Virginia. A lot of people in Southwest Virginia who live in rural areas have kids and are concerned about their kids having unfettered access to things like pornography and social media. And so it's something where legislators and policymakers have found common ground, and I think that's very encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the big picture here, looking at these three states, what's your outlook for 2026? I mean, does it seem like this is a priority for the states around the nation to be tightening down on this privacy stuff?
I do, and states really feed off each other. There's the National Conference of State Legislatures. The group meets regularly. I think they have annual conferences, but there are also work groups, and I've been a part of conversations in those. The work groups are great because you get, 2 legislators from Texas who help draft these statutes, and they explain to legislators from other states, like, here's what worked, here's what hasn't worked. And I think when you have something like this where the goals are all very admirable, but the methods, I think, are things that we're still playing around with, trying to work on. That's where advice from the experience of other states might be very useful. So there are different ways of trying to enforce these privacy laws and trying to improve data privacy within these states. So setting up internal consumer complaint databases within the various enforcement agencies. Things like ways to drive media attention. So the most high-profile cases, how do you use those as a way to justify further enforcement of policy? So sometimes it's those types of methods that states that haven't passed these laws can really learn from what other states have done. What's actually effective in effectuating change? Is a certain level of penalty enough to induce a big data broker company that you haven't heard of to stop selling our data when we request it through the portal? Like, that's a very useful piece of information to state legislators.
Yeah, I mean, it's that old thing about the states being the laboratories, right?
Laboratories of democracy. That's right.
There we go.
Yeah, and it's just, this is what you have to do in the absence of comprehensive federal data privacy legislation. And when you have the federal government talking in the context of artificial intelligence about things like preemption, where the federal government will preemptively, this is kind of the double meaning of preemption, but they will preemptively sue states who they think are enacting artificial intelligence regulations in violation of the administration's priorities. Mm-hmm. And I think that's relevant here because you can see how active and how nimble states can be in responding to the concerns of their constituents. It's much easier to pass legislation. It's much easier to just try things and see if they work than it is at the federal level. And if you have some sort of federal policy, whether it's an act of Congress or an executive order that tries to stifle the ability of states to be nimble, whether it's for artificial intelligence or data privacy, I think that's going to have a huge impact. I mean, just looking at everything we've talked about here, none of that would have been possible if there had been some type of federal preemption. And so I think giving the states the ability to experiment with this and to become models for other states, I think is extremely valuable.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will have a link to this article in our show notes. Again, it's written by Paula Heckrich, who is a lead attorney for crisis context data at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Works for FEMA.
Why do growing businesses love working in Slack? Let's ask Christy at RE Bikes.
Running things in Slack saves me so much time.
AI summaries save 97 minutes per week. What say you, Rox from Gosney?
Slack helps us build community, it helps us build connection.
Your partners, vendors and customers all in one place. Take us on home, Ashley from Caraway.
If we didn't have Slack tomorrow, I would explode.
Well, let's not let that happen. Visit slack.com/podcast to get 50% off Slack Business Plus.
And that is our show. We want to thank all of you for listening. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to caveat@n2k.com. This episode is produced by Liz Stokes. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. The show is mixed by Trey Hester. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. I'm Dave Bittner.
And I'm Ben Yellen.
Thanks for listening.